Order of business is our roll call. Mary?
Chairman Volkmann,
Here?
Member Brush, Member Hill, Member Jasica,
Here.
Member Schappe,
Here.
Member Turelli,
Yes.
Member Walker,
Here.
Student Member Saffrin.
Here.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thanks, Mary. Next order of business is approval of the minutes from our March 19th board meeting. I know we had one edit. Do you want to read the
Sure.
modification?
It was on page 2. There was a partial sentence, and it should be changed to Chairman Volkmann asked if the increase of 1/10 of a cent over each of the last 3 years would continue to increase or remain the same as recent years. So that is a correction in the minutes that we need to add.
So the only other change I'd suggest on page 2 of the minutes, section 4, the second full paragraph, the 6th line from the bottom, there's just an extra word in there. I said, the line should be, wanted to make sure that the process was for getting, and I think the was just should be stricken. The line starts, wanted to make sure.
I see it. Thank you.
I think the word was is unnecessary.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Next item, we have 2 board members, and this is their last meeting. And it's traditional that the city gives a resolution of appreciation for Scott Schappe and Daniel Saffrin. I would like to read the resolutions, and then I have yours here, Scott. Daniel, you will receive yours, I believe, directly from the mayor in May sometime. So let's do Scott first, and maybe before I read the resolution, I'll just share several of the accomplishments that since Scott has been on the board. You've been on the board for 5 years, since May of 2008. So there are a lot of things that happened, including the construction and dedication of the 32-acre community park at Town Line, replacement of the Northcroft and Waveland Park playgrounds, the addition of 2 new playgrounds at Town Line Community Park and Deer Path Community Preschool Playground behind the rec center, the replacement of West Everett and Waveland tennis courts, planting of 150 trees as part of the city's 150th anniversary, roof replacements at multiple park shelters, Deer Path Golf Clubhouse, and all the lakefront pavilions, the infamous approval of the Forest Park Master Plan in 2012. And Scott has also been very involved in the city's sailing program and has led the Lake Forest College's sailing team over the past several years. So thank you for all of that good work that you've done, Scott. So I'd like to read the resolution. It's a resolution of appreciation, whereas Scott Schappe has served the city of Lake Forest as a member of the Parks and Recreation Board from May 2008 to April 2013. Whereas he has devoted much valuable time and personal attention to the work of this advisory board, and on behalf of the citizens of Lake Forest, continually met his responsibilities with purpose and dedication. And whereas the citizens of Lake Forest recognize and are deeply appreciative of the valuable time and service he contributed to the preservation and improvement of the quality of life in our community by serving on this board. Now therefore be it resolved that the Parks and Recreation Board of the City of Lake Forest, Illinois, hereby expresses the profound gratitude of the citizens of Lake Forest to Scott Schappe for the loyal and faithful public service he has given by means of this resolution, which shall be spread upon the permanent records of the City Council, and it will be adopted by the City Council next month in May. So here's a copy of the resolution. Scott, thank you again very much for everything.
Thank you, Kurt. I just wanted to thank Mary and Joe and Sally and Tricia for all of their work and that of your staff on behalf of the city. And you make our jobs so much easier and make us look good. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. Daniel Saffrin was our student member this year, and Daniel is off to Indiana in the fall. Wisconsin, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought wrong Big Ten
You
school.
got me all excited there.
My
Wisconsin.
apologies. My apologies.
Much better choice.
So thank you as well for all your contributions this last year, and I'll read your resolution. Resolution of appreciation, whereas Daniel Saffrin has served the City of Lake Forest as a student member of the Parks and Recreation Board from May 2012 to April 2013. Whereas he has devoted much valuable time and personal attention to the work of this advisory board, and on behalf of the citizens of Lake Forest, continually met his responsibilities with purpose and dedication. And whereas the citizens of Lake Forest recognize and are deeply appreciative of the valuable time and service he contributed to the preservation and improvement of the quality of life in our community by serving on this board, now therefore be it resolved that the Parks and Recreation Board of the City of Lake Forest, Illinois, hereby expresses the profound gratitude of the citizens of Lake Forest to Daniel Saffrin for the loyal and faithful public service he has given by means of this resolution, which shall be spread upon the permanent records of the City Council. And again, it will be adopted by the City Council in May of next month, May. So thank you again, Daniel.
Thank you. Had a lot of fun.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is approval of the mowing bid presented by Chuck Myers. Hi, Chuck.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Park Board. As you said, I am here to seek approval for this contract for 1 year for mowing services on various different parcels and parks. And as you know, the park section is responsible for a lot of different types of mowing, not only the ball fields and the parks, but also we have 120 cul-de-sacs and 41 parkways or right-of-ways that we mow. And then we also have what we're referring to here as passive parks, so like Triangle Park and Forest Park, and other various parcels like the train station, the old MS, that kind of stuff. So back in 2011, we began to look at contracting out portions of that. So we started with the passive parks and miscellaneous properties. And I give you a list in the packet. You can see what I'm talking about there. But again, the train station and stuff like that. So we decided that it was cost effective, and we thought that we needed to look at that at the time. So we've been doing that for a couple of years. It's been running about $20,000 a year to do that one part. So this year, after seeing the last couple of years, we believe that it's been very successful. We think that it is a way of reducing our labor costs, but also looking at the long-term capital equipment costs. So if we mow less, the cost for mowers and things like that goes down. So this year, we've added the cul-de-sacs and the right-of-ways, and we went out to bid for that whole package. The last thing on that with the background is I wanted to mention that we decided that we didn't want to look at the last major area of mowing, which is the ball fields and some of our more active parks. We do want to have control over that because there is a lot of scheduling involved with ball field prep, so we would like to keep that in-house. So we went out to bid, and we did get 7 bids back, and as you can see on the chart that we provided, Rocco Fiore came in at $57,000. We had budgeted $94,000 for the whole thing. That was based on that $20,000 that we had been budgeting the last couple of years, plus $75,000 for was a calculated guess, I would say, but it was looking at what it takes us, hour-wise, to do those other areas. Mm-hmm. So we were pleased when we got a bid of $57,000. You can see the range there. We've provided all of the amounts. It went all the way up to $220,000. So it's a fantastic number there. We've worked with Rocco Fiore in the past. They have had mow contracts, not this type, but they've done other mowing for the city. So we're very confident that they'll be able to do a nice job. So we are seeking the Park Board approval for this contract for a year for $57,890 or $834,000 to do the cul-de-sacs, the right-of-ways, and the passive parks, everything that I mentioned before. This will be going before City Council in a couple weeks as well. Any questions?
Chuck, this reminds me a little bit of the bus bid process that we talked about at our last meeting, where we had a wide range of bids, and we determined that there was probably not as much clarity in the RFP as it should have been, and we decided to rebid the Croya piece. The going from 220 to 57, it's again raises a question in my mind: were we as clear as we could have been, and are we confident that the winning Rocco Fiore is going to do everything we want him to do for that amount of money?
Yeah, we are confident. I did talk to them, and, we wanted to make sure there was no mistake. There were a couple of them right in there, as you can see, Herrera. They were pretty close. Some of the other ones that are on the high end, I didn't talk to them and ask them why it was so high. I know some of them are smaller companies. I don't know why there's such a large range there, but we are pretty confident that we went through and gave them the bid specs and clearly laid out the expectations.
And then the difference between the 94,000 budget and this contract award, will that go for labor for our crews to mow the ball fields and everything?
No, we budgeted that for contractuals, so
Okay,
we
got it.
will try not to spend it, actually.
Got
We're looking at that as savings. We do have other contracts in that area, though, so there are other possibilities with grounds maintenance, but I will be looking at leaving that alone. And then next year, we'll budget what we think is an appropriate amount.
Great, thank you.
I had a question for you too as well. It said it's for the season. Does that start June 1st, goes through September 1st, or what's?
It actually starts as soon as we get approval. So once we get approval from City Council, in May, we would like to get them out there. They are not doing cleanups or anything like that to start off. We're taking care of that. But it would go through September into October. The contract is for once a week mowing. So if they don't need to, obviously they don't mow it and we don't pay them, but, so it could even be less than this.
Chuck, does that mowing also include cleanup and clippings and?
It does. It includes garbage pickup, litter pickup, that kind of thing. If they do damage to a tree with a string trimmer or anything like that, they would have to replace material. It doesn't, that we're not expecting them to have to do any of that. Definitely, though, the litter pickup is included. They don't do fertilizing, which we don't do anyway, but that's not part of this. This is basically mowing.
So is
Mowing
that
and litter pickup.
picking up the clippings of the mowing, or are they bagging it, or how's that? Are they clipping it and leaving it?
In the contract, I have to think back to this, but I believe it said if it was an excessive amount. Typically, the mowers out there, if they're mowing on a weekly basis, it's going to be, it shreds it pretty good. So they're not leaving behind anything. If they needed to, if it got too high, they would have to get it out of there.
Chuck, the 41 rights-of-way, I'm assuming that we've got many, many more rights-of-way than that throughout the city. I was just curious to know how those 41 are identified as falling within your purview, but the others aren't.
That's a good question. And actually, I probably would defer to Peter. He's been doing this for a lot longer than I have. I know that some of them are, done by residents, but,
Okay.
I'll let the
Thank
expert tell you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Peter.
The rights-of-way aren't on your typical city easement, so they're not usually in residential streets. You may find them along Route 41. You might find them around Route 43. Areas like the 41 ramps, along the bike paths, things like that. If you're familiar with like the Wesley Road corridor going towards Fort Sheridan, both the east and the west sides, those are part of those right-of-ways. So kind of considered no man's land, if you will, or parkways that really haven't been maintained by homeowners who don't consider it their yards.
Okay, so the parkways in residential communities, the homeowners are responsible for.
Correct. So
Got it.
in your typical subdivision,
Right.
where you would have sidewalks and right-of-ways, these are kind of those obscure areas.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd move to recommend approval and award of the contract to Rocco Fiore and Sons based on the proposal.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
Next item is a change to the non-resident lakefront boat launch privileges from Jeff Waite. Hi, Jeff.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members. Yes, before you now is the non-resident use of the boat basin for weekends and holidays. Last fall, we presented to the board a new permit fee for the basin. It's a non-resident daily use fee with no restrictions. This is something new. Thought it might be a great revenue stream for us. In the past, non-residents were not permitted to use on a daily basis the boat basin, so they would have to purchase a yearly pass in order to do that, and those fees are considerably higher than what a resident would pay. So we just didn't really have a lot of takers on the those fees. So we presented to the board a $60 daily non-resident fee, which was approved by the board. We took it to City Council, and it became part of the FY14 budget process, which was approved. Well, since that time, there are some things that have come up. Some probably not really expected. Some we probably saw the water level, and that's the big thing right now. Lake Michigan is at a historically low level, which is going to restrict some boating facilities along the lake, mainly Winnetka. I just talked to them this week, and they're going to be restricting what they're going to be able to launch out of Lloyd Beach. They're going to restrict power boaters and wave runners this year, and only do sailboats with either with a retractable keel. I talked to Evanston as well. They're going to be operational, but they're going to limit the size of the boat they're going to be able to launch, no more than 20 feet. So that's going to have an impact on us, because as people travel from the south and come up, we'll be the first facility that would have a daily non-resident fee. The other thing is the city of Highland Park has started renovations of the water plant back on Park Avenue Beach. So they're not going to have any launching facilities for this summer and all the way until next June. So I've been receiving calls already about options for city of Highland Park residents. So and in order to protect the residents' use of this facility at the peak times, which are Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, what we're requesting from the board is approval to suspend or not sell the non-resident daily fees on holidays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Only sell it Monday through Friday. We did talk to city attorneys, and they said that we can do this. We just need park board approval to be able to do that. The best part, I guess, if there is a best part in this, is that when we were making projections on revenue, we did not include any projection, because we didn't really think that we were going to. It would take a year, maybe 2 years, to get some traction on this, so we're not going to have any kind of budgetary impact by restricting these few days. So with that, we would just need approval to suspend or not sell daily non-resident boat launch for Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. Just limit it to Monday through Friday. Any questions?
Yeah, Jeff, in the previous summers, about how many non-resident passes on weekends did we typically sell?
No, this is the first time.
Oh,
This is the
that's right,
first
we
time
just-
that we've
okay.
sold non-resident daily fees.
Daily.
So they'd
okay.
have to do the permit, the yearly permit.
Are we at capacity on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays with residents?
That's the peak time. We are we're kind of restricted by the amount of parking that we're able to do. So with possible overflow from the beach coming in, because we do overflow goes down lower south first for a few spaces, then we move up to the upper south. So we're going to be filling that sort of pinch. So if we get a lot of boats with trailers, and we're only able to put them in that center aisle, and we're going to potentially we could be really restricted. I mean, we may have to turn people away, so that's why we're trying to get in front of this, to be able to say those prime times, Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays are just for residents.
But until we saw this sort of possible big demand, we were imagining we would sell some non-resident.
Yeah, probably a
weekends.
handful, 10 maybe, the first year, and hopefully kind of grow it. But, and if it got to a point, then we would look into restrictions. But, with what's going on along the lakefront, we just felt that we needed to push just a little bit further. And, if Highland Park does open back up in early June of next year, then maybe we could, reopen that or revisit it. But for this summer, because of the low levels of water and Highland Park's, closing down theirs, it's just, we felt that we needed to be a little bit proactive to say no non-residents on Saturday, Sundays, and holidays.
But since it sounded like we thought we'd have a little bit of capacity for non-residents, is it possible that we would just sell a few non-residents permits on weekends? Just limit it rather than having it be unlimited.
Yeah, I think we could. I think from a management perspective, it's easier to say no non-residents during this time, because then you get into, okay, I can take, a handful, and then, have to turn them away. And if they're bringing up their boats and everything, it's really kind of problematic to have your heart set on, coming down to Forest Park and then being turned away. So I think that just would breed some animosity as well. So, we eventually want them to come back.
I think I remember reading in the packet that we have not done any promotions or marketing,
We have not.
so we don't have to undo anything.
We do not.
Okay.
Although I've been receiving a lot of calls. We've talked to someone from the Park District of Highland Park. So we've told them, well, right now this is what we're doing. However, we're going to seek approval or seek options of putting in some restrictions.
And then presumably you'll proactively communicate this decision to
Absolutely.
those communities. So
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Have we seen a
Right.
bump? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Have we seen a bump up in the sale of the annual non-resident boat launch permits?
In the non-residents or
Non-residents for this upcoming season?
Okay. I'm not sure if our fees for non-residents
Oh, I know.
are.
Yeah.
So even if it were their only option, yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
actually talked to someone last week who said that they were interested in just renting an apartment here to get a non-resident or to get a resident fees. That's.
Break even.
Well, I think this
Yeah.
is a good idea, because I think we can always open it up if it's not a problem, but I do think the residents
Right.
who have bought those season permits are going to be really upset if they find themselves
Right.
blocked out
We-
of usage, so.
Right. We had a regatta, and someone came down, wanted to go in, and we had to have them wait for 15 minutes, and they were upset by that. So to have them come down and turn them away because we don't have parking,
Yeah.
it's going to be brutal, I think. So
Any other questions? We need a vote, Mary?
Yes, I need a motion and a
I would move to
second.
recommend canceling the implementation of the non-resident daily launch permits for Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays for fiscal year 14.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Thank you, Jeff. Next item is a spotlight on our baseball and basketball programs. Hi, Anthony.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For those that don't know, my name is Anthony Anashevitz. I'm the athletics program manager and been with the city for, I think, close to 9 years now. Thank you for having me. What I'd like to do tonight is give you a small snapshot of two of our largest programs in athletics, House League basketball and baseball. So the first one, basketball, I'd like to give you just a kind of outline of the format of the program. We offer basketball for kids kindergarten through 6th grade, boys and girls, and then 7th and 8th grade for boys. And we've actually been combined with Lake Bluff for a few years now on all of those age groups. And I'll get more into that as we go here. The next portion would be program participation. I want to give you kind of a layout of where registration is, where registration has been. Then I want to let you know what other kind of basketball-oriented programs we have outside of just House League. So as you can see, you can tell by the numbers here what our registration has been from 2010 to our last season. Now consider our season runs from November all the way through the first week of March. So that's why you don't see anything from 2013 here. But you can see all these groups up here are starred because they are combined with Lake Bluff. Moving on, we can now take a look at what other programs we offer outside of the House League itself. Every Friday night prior to November, starting I think end of October, we offer in-house clinics on Friday nights with our staff that kind of prep the kids for the House League season. And we also offer a camp in the summer through ex-Bulls player Bill Wennington, which is very well attended, very well received. So a lot of kids do that too after the season, just kind of keep themselves going throughout the year. We also offer a full package athletics camp that goes year-round, kind of seasonal. That's kind of a 2-month program, and full package runs it. We kind of work cooperatively with them to kind of advertise and get our youth involved. Moving on to baseball, the format of baseball is a little bit different than basketball in a sense that we're moving towards combining certain programs of Lake Bluff. We've always offered our Pony League, which is 7th and 8th grade boys baseball, with Lake Bluff. We've done that for decades. I feel like I haven't been here that long. It's been done before I was here. This past year would be our second year offering the program with 5th and 6th grade boys, and it's kind of is affected by Lake Forest travel baseball. See, at 11 and 12 years old, those kids don't have to play House League with us. So those kids, kind of separated in the spring, playing travel baseball already. So at 5th and 6th grade, our numbers are considerably lower in Lake Forest, which is why we've combined now with Lake Bluff. With the combination, we've now got, I think, a 10-team league this year with our 11 and 12-year-old boys, which is great news. And the 3rd through 4th grade boys, we've actually not combined with Lake Bluff for quite some time because that program sustains itself. Those travel kids are playing spring baseball with us, and that program's a good 10 or 12 team league, which is obviously a great number to have. I think this year we're just a little bit lower, but that's probably because of the number of kids out there right now. Class sizes are a little bit smaller this year than years past. Kindergarten through 2nd grade, we've always kind of kept it in Lake Forest. That's always been a group of kids that is kind of sustained itself as well. This year is our 2nd year offering scout baseball. This is a 7th and 8th grade kind of travel league that's aside from our Pony League that we combine with Lake Bluff. However, scout baseball is combined with Lake Bluff as well. This is kind of a cooperative program with LFHS, kind of preparing the kids for freshman baseball. I'll get to more on that in a second here. The next slide will show you is program participation. You can see where numbers have gone since 2011, and the 2013 date obviously is up to now. Our season started April 1st, and you can only imagine how many games and practices we've played thus far. So, we're kind of faced with an interesting and difficult challenge. We'll get through it. But numbers, you can see through 2011 and 2013, your numbers in kindergarten have kind of dropped, and we understand that the class sizes just aren't as big as they used to be, and that kind of reflects all the way down the chain there through boys and scouts. Now that House All-Stars program, that's a program we've been running now for 3 years, and that's kind of an alternative to travel baseball in the summer for the kids that strictly don't want to play travel baseball or just don't want to commit to it. So this House All-Star program is a program that's got House League philosophies driven into it, but the kids do get to travel and play other communities. So it's really been received very well. So I would anticipate those numbers be very close to that 24 or 36 this year as well. As you can see, the Scout Baseball program almost doubled in size. That kind of tells you how successful that program is going to be in the near future here. And again, you can see what programs are starred that are combined with Lake Bluff. And the next slide is basically going to tell you what we have going on in baseball that's not House League oriented. So in March every year we run indoor hitting and pitching clinics, and that's in-house, that's staff run. It's a once a week type thing, and the kids basically get ready to play, whether it's pitching or batting, and we really just teach them the fundamentals of the game in those specific skill sets. In the summer, we've combined this year to offer a baseball camp through Slammers Baseball Academy. Basically, again, like the Bill Wennington camp contracted them out. They're going to come in, they're going to run it, and that should be another good opportunity for the kids to get some more reps and some more baseball in the summer. Again, full package athletics. That's obviously a typo. I'm sorry about that. So after that summer baseball camp with Slammers, that's kind of what we offer with baseball. Oops. So to kind of sum it up, here's a program revenue expense chart for you. You can kind of take a look at the numbers and where they've gone since FY11. And as I was saying before, with the trends in class size, it kind of explains, the numbers, briefly there. I would go in depth here, but I think you guys take a look at it and ask me any questions if you'd like.
With the participation numbers going down, why is the net revenue going up?
In which basketball or baseball? Both of them, huh?
Unless I'm misreading it, both of them.
No, well, we've found a way to cut expenses. So if I take basketball, for example, with our staff combined, we've eliminated patched officials. So we're trying to move more to paying in-house staff and giving those kids opportunities to ref, coach. So we're doing a lot more with our expenses in that regard. And I would say that's a pretty significant cut in expenses alone. And we do that in both activities. We no longer go to patched umpires either in baseball for anything above 4th grade. All that's in-house paid staff.
There's about a 50% increase in revenue from baseball.
Yeah, that would be based on the fact that our scout program almost doubled in size, and those kids are paying about, yeah, they're paying more to play that program. And again, if you double a program in size, that's what's gonna happen.
Anthony, what's the cost for the slammers and full package? Are you bearing that cost, or?
Well, they come up with a price point, and we say we need to take our $10 per head for Sport Field Improvement Fund. That comes right off the top. And then, we do a 75-25% revenue split with each one of those programs. So if they want to make an X number of dollar, they know that they have to build the 25% to us in there.
Have we looked at doing it ourselves?
We can. I have not thought about that, but we can. We've always got them involved because they are, quote unquote professionals. A lot of people like to get the diversity in programs with us to get the professional coaching experience and also to get the price point with an in-house program.
I asked that this week. For years, it's always been summer baseball has been through the rec.
Right, with clinics as well as leagues.
Clinics, leagues, all that, and it's just interesting why it's being more or less outsourced.
Yeah, well, travel baseball, LFBA has got the summer baseball kids wrapped up, and that's we offer the All-Star program to give the kids an alternative that don't want to play summer baseball. The scout program is run through us. It's a high school driven program. The staff that we have are directly affiliated with the high school in terms of ex-ball players carrying out philosophies from the head coach. So, that program there, I wouldn't say it's being outsourced. The LFBA, who has those kids 9 through 12, yes, we don't have them in the summer. And that's
so slammers and full package, is that during the day?
Yes. Yeah.
There's an alternative.
Sure, it is an alternative, but it's not run through us. Yeah.
Skoo, I might add to that, just a couple years ago when we did the CIP ad hoc finance committee that was formed of a couple park board members, city council, foundation chair, and some residents, one of the things that they brought back to us is they thought or suggested to us, and then we brought it to the park board for further discussion, was making sure that we were taking advantage of the higher end, sport organizations in our area, because it seemed like parents today were kind of looking for that kind of cachet that came with those kinds of programs, but balancing it with our house programs, we offered variety to the kids. And that was one of the things we kind of stepped away from just being a rec department run athletic department and trying to fold some of those in. So kids do have the options depending on what they're interested in. And we're hoping that they'll house program in and, maybe go to those other camps and supplement so they can, do the sport from a variety of options. So
I also think building relationships with those people is important for us too, just so the community knows that we're not just building a wall around us. So the right companies, obviously.
And to add to that, staff met with the athletic director of the high school and the athletic director from Deer Path Middle School about a week ago, I think, week and a half ago. It's just good to have the dialogue with them of where do you see things headed? How can we work together? What are our opportunities, for things in the future, capital as well as programming, and just kind of continuing to build relationships. And, I think that was a really positive meeting, and I think, we've got some good traction to continue to do that with them as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of us on the same page with youth athletics. It's good to know.
Well, I do have to ask, after my 1-10 season coaching basketball this year, is there any truth to the rumor that I'm being blackballed for coaching next year?
We can work something out. We can work something out, Dan, yes.
All right.
We've heard about
Off the record. Any more questions? I'm sorry. Should have went to my next slide.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you for
Very
having me.
much. Good presentation. Next item is the director's report. Mary?
The first item is our Emerald Ash Borer resident guide. I invited Peter to come tonight also to just kind of touch base with you on information that you have currently at your stations here this evening. It looks like this, and Peter, if you want to just come up and mention what this is about and give them an update.
Sure. Good evening again. We wanted to share with you a resident guide for Emerald Ash Borer. As you recall, a little over a month ago, we came before you with our EAB management program and took it to City Council as well. And we recognized right away we were providing you guys with a lot of information. And what we heard from you is make it short, make it sweet, make it to the point, and make it clear so that the residents can do a number of things. A, identify ash trees so they know what they look like. Work to identify what Emerald Ash Borer is. Give them some options as far as what to do if they have it, how to hire a contractor, what they should do as far as treatment options go, as well as how do they move forward with the regreening. And so I hope you'll find that a lot of the information you directed us to provide you and to the residents is in that brochure. And subsequently, that is something that we will do as a mass mailing. Everybody in Lake Forest will receive one of those in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Again, just in an attempt to reach out to the residents to get the word out about Emerald Ash Borer. And within that pamphlet will be a invite to a open forum at the Gorton Community Center June 1st, a resident workshop, if you will, that will last roughly 2 hours from 9 to 11, giving residents another opportunity to talk with city staff. This is going to be hosted by the City of Lake Forest and the Village of Lake Bluff. In coordination for both residents, and we will have kind of an opening introduction, if you will, and then really offer some breakout sessions so that residents can go to a booth on how to identify an ash or how to talk to somebody about treatment. So again, we are certainly doing our best to get the word out. We feel that this publication will certainly help. And we've made ourselves available as well as we have in the past. So we want to thank you for providing us great insight, certainly good direction in developing this. We hope that you like it. We have had some positive feedback from some of our external sources as well, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
This is the first I've seen it. It's very good.
Yeah,
I like
agree.
it. Very concise, and it's got great information in it. I do have a dumb question, and maybe I'm not the only one that has this question, but I find myself always trying to identify ash trees in town.
Yep.
And this time of year, since there aren't any leaves, I look for the opposite branching.
Mm-hmm.
Are ash trees the only ones that have opposite branching? In other words, if I see opposite branching, can I conclude it's an ash tree?
No.
Okay.
Maples, ashes, dogwoods, horse chestnuts, things like
Yikes.
that have opposite branching.
Yikes.
Most of them have alternate branching, so you've narrowed it down. I'm sure you can, to some degree, rule out some of the maples. And I don't mean to be funny about this, but the most obvious way to tell an ash right now is for the woodpecker damage. It is that prevalent right now that if you look at 70% of the ash trees out there, the woodpecker damage that you see in that catalog, unfortunately, or that brochure, will really let you know it's an ash tree. It's a lot worse than I had thought when we first met with you 6 weeks ago. As we get into residents' backyards and we meet with them, it is more prevalent, and that has become, even for our own residents, the best sign for them to know if they have ash trees.
Peter, what are the predominant trees that are city planted on the residential parkways? Are those?
Well, ash make up 19%, maple make up 21%. After that, we get into the oaks, the lindens. Those are kind of the high numbers. So as you notice on the back, we talk about diversity. And although this is somewhat in its infancy stage here in town, and residents haven't really grasped the amount of removals and certainly the financial costs, we're really gearing up for this whole regreening of Lake Forest. Ravines, bluffs, parkways, park space, cemeteries, golf course, and really focusing on the residents to diversify their plant material. So as I tell you, our parkway population is 21%. As we lose 4,300 trees, that only jacks that percentage up a little bit higher, and so diversity is certainly a key for us.
There was some discussion weeks ago about making some of the pesticide available at cost or at a wholesale price.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still doing that?
We did make it available. Perhaps you saw it in our dialogue. We've had fairly good response. I think we have about 36 bottles that residents have reserved. The cost is about $22.79 per bottle. I made a mistake in the write-up as far as the calculations for the amount that it covers. I was misprinted it by saying 64 ounces. It's actually 20 ounces. Although that's a significant difference in ounces, the price point is still $20 less than a retail price. So it can cover up to 40 inches, but then you're kind of talking about really focusing on smaller trees. So we'll treat an average 20-inch tree for about $22.79. So we've had good response. Sometimes I think those dialogues are read and they're tossed, but we're getting some phone calls periodically, so people have kept it around, and I think that they're still interested in pursuing it.
Is there any mention of that in this?
There's not, because it's for a limited time only.
Okay.
And so we're hoping that that publication we're providing our residents, they will actually keep with them, because this is something that will last for the next 5 to 10 years here in town. I think it's fair to say that a lot of people who live in the community are familiar with Dutch elm disease because they've lived with it so long. And so though it's new now, it may not be in 5 years, but we're really hoping that this is kind of a go-to guide for residents to use in the future.
Very good. Nice work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Peter, can you also share with them about Earth Day? The
Arbor Day?
regreen? Yeah, Arbor Day, I'm sorry. Arbor
So next Friday is Arbor Day. We'll be celebrating our 33rd year. Recently in the paper, you may have seen a write-up in the Trib Local about the 32nd year. So we've been named Tree City for the 32nd year. This year's Arbor Day will be at Melody Farms, which is basically the Lockhart Nature Preserve, so the corner of Deer Path and Waukegan Road. We're having a ceremony, I believe it's at 10 o'clock, where we will be planting a swamp white oak. And as part of our tradition, we hand out over 2,000 trees to the kids here in town at all the schools, not only private but also public. Usually K through 4, depending on the numbers. And as Anthony has said, the numbers are down, so that just allows us to go a little bit higher in our grades. And we partnered up with Lake Forest Open Lands because I think it's a symbolic move. We want them to know, and we want the community to know that we're in this together, that planting native trees are important to us, reforesting things are important to us. And although historically we may have been focused maybe on a city park or a city parcel, we're doing this actually on an open lands parcel, again, to show unity in the movement of planting trees. So Arbor Day is Friday, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Earth Day may even be Monday.
Sorry.
And,
My days are mixed up.
Lake Forest Open Lands has a play day, I think, scheduled coming up. They've got a lot of events this next week to 10 days, so I encourage the residents to look online for Lake Forest Open Lands, events, because they will also be promoting trees that we've donated for their open play days and stuff like that.
Peter, I was going to ask you, are there any opportunities for residents to purchase replacement trees if they've got an, EAB problem?
Is this for public or for private properties?
I would assume private or parkway. land.
Well, for parkways, we certainly want to replace what we remove. We can't do that in every area. Some areas are very forested, and there's just no room for trees to promote good forestry practices. So the typical parkway where you see a tree maybe every 40 feet or 35 feet, we want to get those back. One of the things that occurred at City Council is that we were asking for $200,000 in funding for EAB, and we were pleasantly surprised to double that at the request of Alderman Tack and some of the aldermen, and so now we have $400,000 moving forward. So tentatively, we have $200,000 slated, roughly, I believe it's $200,000, 250, slated for replacement plants over the next year. As far as residential trees, you know, it's our goal, and certainly was the direction of City Council, to try to get trees for residents at an affordable price. And that's where our partnerships with Lake Forest Open Lands come in. That's where our partnerships with some of the schools. And so as much as we'd like to broker some of these deals, we have to be careful on how we balance those opportunities. So we have gone out and reached out to some of the other landscapers to see if they could bring affordable pricing into town. And we've been somewhat successful in some consortium pricing for chemical treatments. We're still trying to work the logistics out for the trees, because we realize that not everyone can just throw a 3-inch diameter tree with a 500-pound root ball in their car. And so we have to kind of figure out what that tree size is, and then what we want to do is perhaps do some type of ordering so that the city's not underwriting it and losing money.
Good.
So we are checking into that.
Great.
Is that parkway, when you're removing that tree, is there any special removal process with the EAB than a normal tree taking out
There's
with
really not
roots?
at this point. You know, we have signed into the state policies for disposal of ash logs, as has a lot of the other forestry and tree care providers. Unfortunately, there's a quarantine pretty much on the whole state. So whether you move your ash logs from here to Wadsworth, where I live, it doesn't really matter. The whole community and the whole Illinois, for the most part, is infested with it. So we still chip the logs. You know, we do use them for firewood at some of our pavilions and stuff, but I wouldn't say that we're adding to the problem that's out there. Unfortunately, the problem already exists. So many, many years ago, there was tighter restrictions. To this point, it's really just the proper disposal, which would be chipping or cutting up into firewood.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Peter. Good job.
Peter.
Always the bearer of bad news.
Mary,
Forest
Silver
Park,
Director's report.
Forest Park project update. There's a letter that I put in front of each of the board members tonight that I wanted to share, and it's the April update to help our residents and neighbors and friends of Forest Park kind of get a sense of what's been transpiring over the winter months down at the park and what we see on the horizon for this coming summer. This update was mailed out to about 100-some homes that the immediate neighbors, you know, to Forest Park, so they should have received that in the mail today. And then this letter that you have here will also be emailed out tomorrow to the interested party database that we have that has a number of several hundred residents and that have signed up for that. And it'll be posted on the Forest Park website. But basically, just to give you, you know, a brief update, the primary focus of the last few months for the Forest Park Corporation has been their fundraising efforts. They've been working on refining some of the design specifications. We did do the specifications for all the infrastructure, but this is the elements on top of that, like the additional pathways in the park, the amenities and that kind of thing. So they're still working on that, but have made a lot of progress with it and done a lot of value engineering in order to make sure that they can bring this project forward in a cost-effective manner. And of course, probably the most visible work that they've been doing and we've been involved with to some extent has been the tree work on the property. I don't know if you've all had a chance to drive down to the lakefront, but you really should. It will knock your socks off when you hit the end of Deer Path and you see lake, because you hit Lake Road, because now you will see the lake. The vistas are, work has been done. We were really pleased to work with Canucan Tree Services and Nell Johnson, tree experts. The Forest Park Corporation was able to reach out to them, and they donated their services to do a lot of the thinning and the tree removals that were necessary. So the vistas are beginning to take shape down there, especially on the north half of the property. It's a little hard to understand what the vistas are because there's no leaves on the tree, so it feels very wide open right now, so it's a very different feel. And if you go down below, it's, you know, feels a little concerning because you're seeing the stumps. But that will evolve when our ground cover gets put down. When the soils warm up here shortly, we'll put in a ground cover that will help us with the kind of the visual aspect of it down below, and, you know, make sure that we we still keep the vistas, but we also are managing the bluffs most appropriately. So that's been happening. The infrastructure work, as I mentioned, they're refining the specifications, and instead of starting the work this spring as originally anticipated, which aren't we glad we aren't doing it now with all the rain we have going on and running into the summer months that are peak, the anticipated date now is that the infrastructure work would begin late summer, early fall. So that will not interrupt our lakefront summer activities down there. Everything will remain normal for the summer months. And then couple of dates that are coming up that we wanted to mention to you. Chuck is working with Lake Forest Open Lands to do an invasive plant removal volunteer workday. It'll be on Saturday, May 18th. We'll have crews that we're looking to look for volunteers to help us at McCormick Nature Preserve as well as at Forest Park. And so that'll be coming up here in May. We'll be getting out more detailed information shortly on that, as well as the Forest Park Corporation is planning the groundbreaking ceremony on Saturday, August 3rd. Obviously, a short time before they plan to start some of the construction work. That would be the roads, the sewers, that kind of work that would be kicking off. And they picked that weekend in particular because it's the weekend before Lake Forest Day. We think a lot of people are still here in the community to attend it and enjoy it. We also have our movie at the beach that night, so for those that would like to come to the groundbreaking, stay on and have kind of a family evening down there. So we're working on some of the details for the ceremony itself, and that information will also be coming out later. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is an attachment to the letter. It was information that was put together to kind of help provide more education as to the work actually on the bluffs with the tree removals. And I won't go through all of it in detail, but I think it's important that it understands the management approach to and the importance of the tree work that's down there. It is to make our bluff healthier and a stronger ecological system, as well as meet the goals of reestablishing the vistas at the park. So it talks about the kinds of trees that were removed and why, and it talks about what we're planning to plant back in place down there. So hopefully you'll find that to be a very informative piece, and we hope the residents will enjoy seeing that information as well. So just wanted to keep you in the loop on that. Moving on, upcoming events for the board to be aware of. We have Smeltorama next Saturday, and Dan Jasica says it's his favorite event that we do. So he's being honored that night as from iCare as a volunteer contributions to our community. So I told him it was going to be a stellar night. He could do his dinner at Deer Path Inn and then come down, hopefully wrap up the night at Smeltorama with us.
I'll skip dessert so I can get a few smelt in.
There you go. So that starts at sunset, and obviously there's a variety of activities from music. It's a fun evening on the lakefront. Encourage everybody to come, especially if you've never been to it, because it is special. And that same night, Kinderhaven is having their Giving Tree gathering. It's a fundraiser for families of our participants in Kinderhaven. The next day is our preschool dance recitals, where all of our little ones come to do their dance recital separate from our older kids, and that will be at Gorton Community Center starting at 12:30. And then in May, we start a lot of our kickoff events that are athletic-based. We have our middle school rugby festival on May 5th, as well as our karate tournament and our Kinderhaven art show. So this is all happening over at Deer Path Park and the Rec Center, so be a very busy May 5th over there. And then we move into our big dance recital, which is so large, we hold it at Lake Forest High School Auditorium. And we have hundreds of our dancers participating in that, as well as our Kinderhaven will have their Kinder Shop upscale resale fundraiser as well at the Rec Center gym in May. So a busy May coming ahead for us. So I wanted to share that with you. And then the other item that I wanted to mention to you that is upcoming for us is we anticipate shortly beginning some of the work on the Route 60 medians. We will begin the tree removals out there probably in the next week or two, as soon as we can get in there with our weather, allows us to get in there with our vehicles and things. So we'll be doing the tree removals and starting the excavation out there. with the hope that, you know, obviously we can get this project done before summer's upon us. So I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on that. We'll be getting out a more detailed timeline of the project, so if you get any questions that come your way, we'll be able to forward that to you. But we're still wrapping up a couple of those kinds of items for the project. And that wraps up my comments for tonight.
Great, thank you, Mary. Other comments by board members? Opportunity for the public to address the board. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. How's that, Trish?
Perfect.